The saying goes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But is that applicable when you're training for both at the same time? Redshirt freshman Kaylee McCabe is in that situation right now. But she seems to be doing just fine wearing two hats at once. The Mountaineer wide receiving corps had a forgetful 2020 season. Although chock full of talent, the team had a bad case of dropped passes. Head coach Neil Brown shared in that frustration. The team ended up finishing 4th in the nation, and although they weren't able to add to their trophy case this year, there are still many positives to take away from this season. One positive being that the season got to happen at all. With all these players focused on self-improvement this offseason and getting starting quarterback Jarrett Dagey back this year, we could be in for an electric bounce-back season for these guys in the fall. In West Virginia, early voting starts in 2 days. From October 21st to the 31st, West Virginians can go to their polling location from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. from Monday through Saturday. Who, although likes the idea that there's going to be a better understanding of the police and the residents, he doesn't like the fact that this board will have the ability to conduct investigations should there be misconduct suspected. Last season, the men's basketball team did not find much success. Despite this, their average attendance at Big 12 games were about the same as their Big 12 home opener as well as their season opener. National titles are commonplace for the perennial rifle powerhouse West Virginia, but this season they didn't even place in the top 3.
I suspect everyone was a little disappointed how we finished, just both in performance and an actual outcome and result. And hopefully that motivates everyone and all of us to get back at it for next year. The team ended up finishing 4th in the nation, and although they weren't able to add to their trophy case this year, there are still many positives to take away from this season. One positive being that the season got to happen at all. What we're doing, pales in comparison to people working in hospitals and people actually dealing with a global pandemic. So, I think ultimately reflecting, like, we were really fortunate to have a season and be able to do the thing that we love to do, which is our job, and for the athletes be able to come each day and practice and compete.
It is evident that both coaches and players are thankful that a season got to happen all the way to its completion. On top of that, every shooter who competed in the championship for West Virginia had never been in this situation before and are all returning next year. Junior shooter Jared Eddy believes this year's finish will act as a motivator for next season.
That's going to be a huge driver and motivator for every one of us. And I think next year we will come back very strong, very confident in our abilities.
From disappointment to gratitude to determination, that wraps up the 2021 spring season for the rifle team. Now each will go their separate ways for now, reflect on their experiences, and look to come back stronger in the fall. Mark Schoenster, Mountaineer Playbook, Morgantown. The Mountaineer wide receiving corps had a forgetful 2020 season. Although chock full of talent, the team had a bad case of dropped passes. Head coach Neil Brown shared in that frustration.
As we got to do a better job controlling our emotions and our response to when things do go poorly, they've got to be better. We can't let one mistake or one drop pass affect another play.
The Mountaineers have a talented group of receivers going into the 2021 season. With names like Sam James, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Winston Wright, and more returning, wide receiver coach Jared Parker believes this is a group beginning to embrace the accountability.
So really pleased with that. The veteran guys are becoming veteran guys, meaning we've actually got leadership. Some guys really trying to take it forward and be able to respond to negative results as well as positive. So that part's been really well from our vets.
4 of the top receiving yards leaders in 2020 are returning for 2021, making this group experienced for college football standard, which means now they just have to focus on fixing the issue at hand. Coach Parker believes this process will lead to future success.
And don't get too high when we play well. Don't get too low if something bad happens, and just get lost in the work and go have fun playing. And I really believe we're doing that better right now, and we've got to sustain it.
With all these players focused on self-improvement this offseason and getting starting quarterback Jarrett Dagey back this year, we could be in for an electric bounce-back season for these guys in the fall. Mark Schoenster, Mountaineer Playbook, Morgantown. The team's average attendance at home for Big 12 play is only 59% of the 2020 opener against Texas. After a rare win over Texas Tech, Mountaineer head coach Mike Carey made frustrated comments suggesting that the fan base had turned its back on the team. Senior forward Tiny Smartin was on her coach's side on this topic.
I definitely understand what he's saying, and I back him up 100%. It's no way that we go on a losing streak and we start losing fans. If you look at the boys' side, they don't lose fans when they have a losing streak or whatever the case would be, so I don't understand why they treat us like that. So I get that he is upset that our fans aren't loyal. I mean, that's when we need fans the most.
Last season, the men's basketball team did not find much success. Despite this, their average attendance at Big 12 games were about the same as their Big 12 home opener as well as their season opener. The women have not quite had the same luck. So I talked to a season ticket holder for the women's basketball team and asked him what he thought about the fan base. S.O. Pratt became a season ticket holder in 1992 because of a player from Schoenster, West Virginia. She is long gone, but Pratt is still here and has his thoughts on why the fans for women's basketball are more shaky.
People don't know them as well, and they don't get the advertising like a newspaper and like the men do. The women, you look 3 or 4 pages deep trying to find a score.
Whether or not the women get publicity, Tiny Smartin has one main message for her younger teammates who are less experienced with this fan base decline.
You got to keep playing because you never know who's in the stands, regardless of if it's one person, 100 people, 1,000. That one person can mean a lot. It can be a scout. It can be an important person. So just play.
And just play they must. WVU has 3 more games in the regular season, and Mike Carey has said they need to win all 3. Reporting for J386, I'm Mark Schoenster. What's going on, everybody? We're back with a new edition of Mountaineer Playbook. I'm Mark Schoenster.
And I'm Ireland Viscount. We've got men's basketball, baseball, soccer, and more coming your way on today's episode.
Bob Huggins reached 900 wins over this past weekend, joining an elite group of 5 other coaches in men's D1 basketball history. Chris Farha is outside the basketball practice facility to tell us more about his legacy. Absolutely. And I can imagine it's great for Coach Stratford to see familiar faces each season. Switching to swimming and diving, the men's team are sending a personal best 5 competitors to the NCAA swimming and diving finals this weekend. Ireland Viscount here has more. And I'm Mark Schoenster. We've got women's basketball, baseball, esports, and more coming your way on today's episode. Kaiser has been an absolute thrill to watch these past few seasons. And although basketball season is winding down, baseball season is just getting started. Following a 7-day COVID-19 layoff, the West Virginia baseball team is set to continue their non-conference schedule, starting Thursday night with a 3-game series against Central Michigan. A great collegiate career is ahead of her, and we still got a great show ahead of us here on Mountaineer Playbook after this break. Welcome back to Mountaineer Playbook, WVU's student-produced sports show. Up next, we've got a story from my co-anchor Ireland Viscount about the Mountaineers' trip to the Big 12 Swimming and Diving Championship. The future of sports is here, and it's all virtual. We're going to kick it to Cole Pancake, who has more on the world of esports. If you missed the link, just look up WVU Rec Sports on Twitch to find the channel. It should be worth a watch. The state of West Virginia became the 7th state in the United States to legalize sports betting 3 years ago. West Virginia sportsbooks produced $1.3 million for the Mountain State. Taylor Kennedy is outside the Wheeling Island Hotel Casino and Racetrack for more on the growth of sports betting. Last season, the swimming and diving team got to compete and use the new aquatic center at Milan Park for the first time in the Big 12 championships. Ireland here caught up with the team to find out more. I agree, Ireland. Not to mention, national parks are a great way to get out of your home and enjoy the world while staying socially distant. With that in mind, we've reached the end of today's edition of Mountaineer Playbook. I'm Mark Schoenster. It's my understanding, Mr. Vrabel, that Morgantown falls under an essential air service market, which means the airport is supported by federal funding. The essential air service market was created for small communities to maintain a limited level of scheduled air service. Could you define how Morgantown qualifies for the essential air service market, and if this expansion is going to impact the requirements to be considered part of it? Going off of that, the extension is supposed to be adding a little over 1,000 feet to the runway to improve aviation safety. Can you elaborate more on how safety exactly will be improved and why it's important? Mr. Rogerson, for this expansion, you're moving 4.4 million cubic yards of dirt, which will then be used to create this business commerce park. Can you tell us more about the city's future plans for this development?